Recently I've been thinking about making a blog, but having a space on the internet I can call my own and do whatever I want with. The only problem is, I don't really have any idea how to create one, or at least I didn't. But over the last few days and weeks, I've been researching how to create a blog from scratch, and I want to share that with you in this video. Hey team, great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I am Jack, a business analyst and a YouTuber living in Ireland. For those of you that aren't aware, I'm actually rather new to content creation at this point in time. At the time of recording, I've actually only recorded 7 videos or so, and it's been about 6 months since I actually started the channel. So yeah, rather new to it, but I've only recently started to taking it more seriously as a whole. And my next big focus has been blogging. I've been really focused on learning how to blog in the last week or so, because I had no idea how to go about creating a blog. So I spent the last week researching exactly the steps you need to take and what options there are for those of you who want to make a blog from scratch. So this video is all about sharing the ways I researched how to create a blog, and I want to share my tips and tricks for you. Firstly, before you even get started, there's 3 things I want you to keep in mind before you even think about starting your blog. Number 1 is think about what you want or need or expect from your blog once you've set it up. What are the types of things you're going to be using your blog for, and what would you expect to get back from it? These types of things might inform what platform you choose or the different options you select whilst you're creating it or before you've even begun creating it. So it's important to have at least an idea of the things in mind that you would want from a blog. Number 2, what kind of budget do you have to spend on your blog? Are you a student or someone else who doesn't have any disposable income or very, very little? If you don't have much disposable income or any at all, then you might just have to go with the free option, and that's fine. These can work, especially if you're just getting started. But if you do have money to spend on a blog, it's probably the option I would recommend. There's a lot of perks and services and supports that come along with these that make it worth your while. Thirdly, before you go about creating your blog, I definitely recommend you do your own research, just like I did. It really helps to shed some light on certain areas of blog creation that you might not otherwise discover until much later into your blogging journey. So definitely spend a wee half an hour, 40 minutes just having a browse through YouTube, on Google, researching the ways to create a blog, the tips and tricks videos, and all the other good stuff that's out there. So those were my 3 tips to get you started before you even start researching or creating a blog. Now to the main stuff. So when I started researching, the first thing I did was research a little bit myself on YouTube and on Google, just typing in how to create a blog from scratch, how to build a blog, how to build a website. Since I decided I had a little bit of a budget to spend on making a blog, then I knew I wanted to use a paid platform and get the added bonuses that came with that. One of the main points that I came across when I was researching how to create a blog was domains. So domain names are the URL, essentially, what you'll see when you're searching for it on the internet, and the web page you have to type into your URL. Now you have to ask yourself, do you want a custom domain name? If you do, you're more than likely gonna have to pay for it on a monthly or yearly basis. The good news is they're relatively cheap, something like $8 to $20, euros, pounds, whatever, to own for a year. If you don't want a custom domain name and you don't want to spend any money on your blog, then that's fine. There's definitely options available to you. You can use free blogging platforms or free versions of blogging platforms that will supply your own domain. You just won't be able to customize it as much as you want. At best, you'll maybe have the name of your blog dot whatever website you're using, such as WordPress or ghost.io or .com. So it won't be entirely your own, and it'll be a bit harder for people to find in that way. But for getting you started, it's fine. Coming back to custom domains, the one thing I really recommend you make sure your domain provider is WHOIS Protection, or it's also known as domain privacy. Essentially what this does is it stops other people from being able to go onto the internet and find out your personal details, such as your name, phone number, email address, all that sort of thing. So you don't want people finding that out. So make sure your domain provider provides WHOIS Protection, and make sure they provide it for free. Some services will sort of sneakily try and charge you extra for it. So just make sure they provide it, and preferably for free. A few good domain providers that I came across were ones such as Namecheap and Google Ads. They both provide WHOIS Protection and they provide domain name and they provide domain names on the relatively cheap side. I'll leave a link to a really good video up in this corner that talks about really good points to look for when you are looking to have your own domain name. So please make sure to check that out. I'll also leave a link in the description to a good article that explains WHOIS Protection and domain privacy and all that sort of things. So we'll be sure to check them out. So the second main thing you need to look for when you're going to create a blog is a platform. This is the website or the person who's going to really host your blog. It's the platform you're going to use to create your blog, build it, design it the way you want. At this point, you should really think back to your needs and think about what you need from your blog. This is really going to have an impact on which platform you choose and what sort of plan you're going to go for. It's also important to know at this point that whatever platform you choose might dictate what domain provider you use to buy your custom domain name. So just hold off on buying any until you've watched this section and done a bit of research on both domain and platforms that you might want to use. Now, like I said, different platforms to host your blog on are going to have pros and cons. Some are going to be flexible in terms of what they can provide you, and some might be slightly more specialized and better for certain services or better for creating a certain type of blog or business. It's also important to note that services such as WordPress.org and WordPress.com actually are two different things, so it's important to know the distinction between the two. I'll leave a link to a video up here that explains the difference between the .org and the .com versions. The two main platforms that I seem to keep coming back to over and over again, bearing in mind they're both paid platforms that you need to pay to use, are WordPress and Ghost. The advantages of WordPress seem to be that it's quite flexible. You can build many different types of websites, including e-commerce, business websites, as well as personal blogs, and have a lot of control and customization over the interface and that sort of thing. There's a lot of add-ons readily available, and there's a huge customer base, a huge user base that already use WordPress, so they've got a lot of stuff figured out and they're generally quite good. A lot of people use them. Another service, however, that I kept reading about was Ghost, and they're quite an interesting service in a lot of ways as well. They seem to specialize a lot more in creating blogs and for writers and journalists and for creating newsletters. They have built-in functionality that allows you to create a membership program for your newsletters, so people can subscribe to your email list for a monthly subscription fee, and you can build an audience that way. With WordPress, it's a little bit trickier to do that. They don't have a built-in newsletter functionality. There's a lot of add-ins and stuff you would have to do it and sort of create it in a manual way. So it's a bit less flexible in that way, and you may still be able to do it on WordPress. It just might be slightly more complicated. So those are the two main platforms I've been covering. I might cover platforms in a bit more detail in another video. One last thing to note on this is don't get too hung up on choosing the perfect blogging platform that most likely isn't going to be the perfect one for you, just one that's going to fit most of your needs. So don't get stuck trying to be too analytical about it. The most important thing is to really just go and get started. Don't get caught in the trap of paralysis by analysis. So just go ahead and go try it out. If you found that helpful, make sure to hit the big red subscribe button below to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for any more tips I'm bringing out in the future. I'll also be sure to leave lots of resource materials in the description to help you go research your blog and find the best platform and domain for you. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like button below and leave a comment letting me know what you found helpful and what you would like to see more of. Or if you've already made a blog yourself, let me know what platform you're using and why you chose it. I'll be bringing out another video soon about the tips I would give to anyone creating a blog, so make sure to check that out when it comes out. Thanks guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.